Oops.
I feel bad, Amanda, that I'm messing up your... You can put your foot up there.
Oh, no, it's okay. He'll tell me to take it down in a second anyway.
I get mad when people put their feet up on there because then it makes a knocking sound. I get mad a lot, Tony, and they don't give me any kind of respect at all.
Maybe you should change the emotion from mad to something else.
No, we're not asking for advice. I'm just telling you how it works. Here we go. Welcome to the Lift Heavy Run Long podcast, episode number 185. You can find us at www.liftheavyrunlong.com, on Twitter and Instagram at LiftRunLong. Also, feel free to email me directly at the address wilson@liftheavyrunlong.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. If you're not a member of our Facebook group, you should be because we want you to be there. Search for Lift Heavy Run Long Community and request to join right now. My name is Wilson Horrell. I am one of your hosts. I'd like to remind you that the Lift Heavy Run Long podcast is not censored, so listen at your own risk. Lift Heavy Run Long has an app. We want you to be on it. For $19.99 a month, you can have access to all of the programs that Lift Heavy Run Long has to offer. For $0.00, you can have access to the Lift Heavy Run Long app and the LHRL Strength and Bodyweight LHRL Daily Strength and Bodyweight Conditioning, which includes 3 bodyweight exercises every week, 4 barbell strength exercises, and 4 daily WODs. Go to liftheavyrunlong.com, click the sign up now button, and get signed up. We'd love to have you. I have sitting next to my right the hottest woman in the entire world, Dr. Amanda Kimsey Horrell, jacked and tan. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm wonderful.
Good.
Never better.
How's your knee?
Fantastic. It's coming along just fine. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. It's not swollen as much anymore.
Not as much, but it's going down. It's getting better.
Good.
Just over the past 3 days, it's gotten significantly better. So much that the doctor said I can do whatever
I don't.
So we're
believe
going to
I
go
wanna
run
do.
50 this weekend.
What?
I did sign up for the 1,000K across. After I walked a mile, I was like, I think I should sign up for the 1,000K. And I signed up that afternoon, and I went back and I did log my mile after I signed up, which technically disqualifies me.
But you are going to win, right?
But I'm going to go ahead and
What's the deadline for completing the 1,000K?
Is it
August something.
Yeah, 31st.
August 31st.
2021?
yeah, right. So I'm like 3 weeks behind already. You're supposed to do 5 miles a day. So
We're going to take this new knee out for a spin.
yeah, 2 miles I did today. So I mean, if I continue doubling my miles every day, then who knows?
In 50 days, you'll be up to 100 miles.
I'll be injured.
You did that math really fast. You're smart.
All right, and with us on the show, we have Tony Hendricks and Melissa Wagner. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing good.
Thank y'all for coming out.
Yeah, we're excited to be
Thanks
here.
for having us.
They have a very interesting project that they have coming up, and we're going to hear all about that as soon as we get done with my introductions, because y'all know I have to stay in my flow of things or I get all bent out of shape.
What?
And I appreciate y'all's understanding with all of that and me and my quirky
Anger issues.
oddities and my anger issues. Thank you, Tony. The Reverend
Hello.
Vaughn Rawls.
Here I am.
Looking
sitting
fly
right
as
Thank you,
a
sir.
mamma jamma.
here. Well,
Damn, I love that shirt.
I know, I like the little fishies.
thank
Is that what that is? Is fishies?
Yeah,
I
they're
don't know.
fishies.
It's too old missy.
fishes.
I'm going to let Amanda
Too old missy for me. Sorry.
opinionate over that.
Oh, too old, Missy, hotty toddy.
Oh, God, dog. Let's not get into all that.
Well, he's pretty fly for a white guy because he had to dress to impress for his new job today. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Day one.
Fantastic.
It did.
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's great.
It's amazing.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Feel like it's going to continue that way?
Absolutely.
Comfortable with everyone there?
Yeah. I mean,
How many people did you meet today?
There's only 7 people in the whole office. So
Did you meet them all?
everyone else is working from home. So
Okay, well, that's still good.
I actually got to go this past Thursday. Well, yeah, and last week and pick out my office, the office that I wanted, and so I met everyone pretty much then.
The 7
So,
people.
Yeah, and then the rest of the company is only like 19
Sure,
people in the whole company. But
Did you, when you say you got to pick off at your office, were you able to walk in there and be like, Larry, hit the bricks? This is my office.
No. It wasn't like it had to be an office that was vacant.
Oh, okay.
So, it
So
wasn't-
you got to pick what was left over.
well, there was a lot of them. So.
Oh, okay, good.
Either way, you should have flexed your assertiveness, your assertive muscle, and just
Kick
been
somebody out of their office.
Tell the CEO, yeah, you're moving.
Yeah, I like this big corner office right here. How about that?
You know, I've been wondering if anybody, since everybody's gone from the offices right now, if anybody's taken up residence since, in some corporate
Squatted?
offices. Yeah, squatted.
There's got to be some
Did you
corporate
hear
squatting
about the
going on.
guy that was he lived at Disney World Wilderness Adventure
No.
for like 2 weeks before they found him.
Oh my God.
He was camping there. He just thought it was. He said he just thought it was like a free and open camping area, but he got arrested. They didn't buy his stuff.
Oh wow!
But he was there. He was there for
In Orlando?
Yeah.
At Fort Wilderness.
Fort Wilderness. Thank you.
That's
So
That's
he just put his camper in there. Or he had a tent. Or
I think
what?
he had a tent. I think he
Wow.
walked onto the property and set up camp, and he was there.
I don't even know if they allow tents there.
I
to
mean,
be honest.
if you're gonna camp anyway, why can't
Disney World is the best place in the world, right?
I guess, but why risk getting arrested and just camp in the regular
think-
woods?
My best guess is that he just thought that nobody was there. They're
Yeah.
closed, so that means no workers are there either, right? So I can just camp, and I don't know.
I'm going to go out on a limb and assume he probably had a few issues going on that would drive him to
think?
do that.
To
Possibly.
rationalizing that
Yeah.
was
Maybe,
okay.
Maybe.
perhaps that's the case.
Yeah, most of the time when I've done things similar to that or without clothes in public, it's been because there was,
A lack of rationalization.
yes, right. Big Thirsty,
Hello.
What's up?
Brian Swanson.
How y'all?
I'm good. How are you?
I am okay.
He's
Yeah.
Notre Dame.
You are Notre Dame.
Yeah.
We're hitting all
He's
the
always
all
Notre
the
Dame-y,
major
though.
universities. Not that Ole Miss is a major one, but all the we're hitting universities. Getting wittier by the second. Wait till the end of the show. I'll be peaking on wittiness.
Well, you're kind of Ole Missy too.
Yeah, I accept that.
Have you guys been keeping up with your college team and like how the school is reopening in the fall?
No.
So Notre Dame is among many other schools, but I just don't know which schools. They're starting like a month earlier, and then they'll be done at Thanksgiving and won't go back. Instead of taking a Thanksgiving break and then coming back and then going through like to Christmas, they're going to go in like a month early and then finish at Thanksgiving because that's when the second wave should be like full on. And so it's the kind of idea that they'll probably end up having to cancel classes in like October, but they won't miss 2 months of school. They'll only miss a month of school at that point.
Is that the consensus, Dr. Amanda, that Thanksgiving the shit is going to hit the fan? And
I've not heard anything about this fall and what's going on. I've not heard anything about it. It's kind of with all the riots and everything going on, the media's kind of covered up everything. And
Yeah,
I've
this
not-
place will be blown to.
I've not
it
read
was
any
funny.
studies.
Someone today was talking about how there's a curfew in Memphis now
10
from
p.m. tonight.
from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I was like, wow, are the COVID cases going up? And then because it didn't click to me that people are rioting. now.
6 days of protesters. There were like 30-something arrests last night in downtown Memphis with some damage, and things have not escalated to the level that they have in other cities, but the mayor and the police are trying to get a handle on it before it escalates to the point that a curfew is necessary. So
I guess I need to rethink my running schedule tomorrow morning.
Probably.
Man.
Yeah. I heard this. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that they boarded up the Apple Store and even
did.
took the
In
Apple
Saddle
off
Creek,
of.
someone was saying that today, yeah.
well, because, and I wasn't going to get into it, but there's a nationwide organized movement of protesters that have said, let's stop looting downtown and let's move to the suburbs.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I
Like,
saw
let's go
that.
screw up the suburbs now. And so Saddle Creek and places like that are like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and just board up our stores.
Yeah, in
and-
Chattanooga, they shut down the main mall. They just went ahead and shut it down.
Wow.
Jeez.
I mean, I'm not sure that I believe about the nationally organized movement, but
It's hard
somebody's
for me to
buying
believe
into it.
that there's just a great deal of organization going along in the National Looters Society. But you never know. There's a lot of anger and a lot of people willing to do a lot of things that they wouldn't typically do. And on a lot of levels, I get that.
Talk about people getting out of their comfort zone and doing what they would normally do. GFO's listening.
Yep.
Gary F. and Owens.
What is unusual about Gary F. and Owens?
Gary is the guy that got out of his comfort zone and signed up for a 50-miler, and then he was signed up for 100 until he went through all this stuff. So I'm just
I
saying.
thought you were talking about him getting out of his comfort zone and listening to the
No,
podcast.
no, no, no.
Gonna say he listens every week.
I'm talking about a guy that gets out of his comfort zone like it's a day trip to the park or something.
The guy's gotten out of his comfort zone, signed up for the Tunnel Hill 100-miler.
Yeah.
Dude got COVID. See,
No way,
out of
really?
the comfort
Yeah,
zone.
he got COVID for all of us so that we wouldn't have to get
That's right, he did.
He was one of the OGs of COVID.
He's
He started COVID. He started.
Chuck Norris hadn't gotten
Patient
COVID.
zero.
He
Chuck
got
Norris
patient
didn't
zero,
survive
He is-
GFO.
He is LHRL COVID patient 0.
Patient GFO. I've got my T-shirt in there with his face on it.
Actually, that's not
fantastic.
fair. Kathy's probably patient 0. But
Yeah, she probably is too.
Yeah,
anywho.
Anyways,
So I did get my GFO T-shirt.
I didn't.
Yours is coming.
that's fantastic that there is such a thing as a GFO T-shirt.
And that there was a demand for it. Like Holly had to board up her house because people were coming.
People realize that's where
demanding
they were,
GFO
they were
shirts.
being made. Yeah.
Yep. And then it just spread elsewhere. That's how this whole thing originated. So, before we get off on any other tangents, unless anyone has any tangents they'd like to hit on,
Some fun tangents.
before we turn to our guests, before we get off on
Oh, we're doing
tangents
good.
after-
I mean, usually we got 15 minutes left in the show, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we're supposed to talk to you all about a thing. And I forgot about that.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
Tony and Melissa, you guys have a 310-ish mile 10-day race.
The number is very important here.
Okay, hit it.
It's 333 miles.
Okay.
Yeah, because that is, if you do the math, that's halfway to hell.
Is that it? Okay. That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Actually, if you look at it on Ultra Sign Up, I think originally he threw the number out there, and it's listed as 326, but the course is actually 333 miles.
Who's he?
Lazarus Lake.
Okay, I didn't know if he was actually involved in this or if you were just referencing him and his crazy races.
Oh yeah, no. This is a Laz race. It's a Laz creation, actually. We can talk more about where these things came from, but to my knowledge and talking to other racers, these journey races have not existed outside of what Laz created.
In an organized way, yeah.
Yeah.
So last year, he has a race called Last Annual Vol State that goes across the state of Tennessee. It's been going on for several years. And last year, it was so popular, I think it sold out in one day, maybe less than a day.
Oh yeah, it was within an hour.
Yeah. So he said, after a week or so, he said, well, I'll just do another one. And I won't tell you what the route is, but you can sign up if you want. And so that's how this race got started, was out of popularity for
And there are
Laz.
just people that because he is going to do a race, they'll just sign up for it. It's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
his race. It's going to be stupid. I'm
Yep.
in.
If I'm
Yes.
going to die, I want it to be on his watch.
Yeah, yeah.
He
So-
certainly has seen quite a bit of popularity since the Barkley documentary
That's
came
what I was
out.
gonna say.
Yeah.
There's some context here we skipped past, so
Yeah.
you can understand that. But yeah, so he's the one that was the Barkley Marathons, which there was a documentary done about that won several awards. It was on Netflix for a while. I think it's on Amazon Prime right now.
We talk about Laz on a fairly regular
Oh, do you?
basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on my
okay.
Facebook cover page.
Yeah.
Picture.
Yeah, one of our previous guests won.
John Kelly.
John
The
Kelly,
race?
yeah.
Oh,
One-
nice.
Okay.
He was on our I reached out to everybody that finished 2 or more laps at Barkley. Just sent a message, hey, I'm this douchebag that has this little podcast. If you don't have anything better to do, come be on the show. And he responded, said, yeah, I'll be on. I've never been on a podcast. Well, so he's on our podcast, and then the Barkley starts, and it's just him and the other guy, and people are literally, and I quote, who the fuck is John Kelly saying this on Twitter? And I'm like, hey, this is who he is. I even made like a quick highlight.
Yeah,
I'm
he
like
was doing
cutting
like
and
excerpts
editing.
from the podcast.
And so, I mean, this thing, like, we got probably 20,000 views off of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it was just so exciting to be like, man, he's a no name as far as, the Barkley goes. He's going to win it.
Yeah.
That is one of the most fascinating things about this sport, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but there are superb, world-class endurance athletes that do amazing things, and they get no credit. Nobody knows who they are, and it's mind-blowing what they do.
But a lot of them don't want it, right? I mean, they're just so humble. It's about pushing themselves.
Yeah, and I think this kind of Laz Lake community exists, and it seems to be a different community, ultra community outside of like your common Western states and like Hurt 100 and those kind of things. I think there's a whole group of people that don't care about the recognition and don't care so much about the retail version of these things. It's just we want to go do a thing that seems too hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to this race, the 3:33. So he's not told you what the route is. So you just show up at a certain point and go from there.
When you signed up originally, and then he's built a.
Well, he has a route that he proposed originally, but it's not the official route, and we think it will probably have changed. So we'll get the map and the route the day of or the day before, and then what we do is we actually drive to the end and we ride a bus, and the bus will drive the route. So we'll get to ride the route backwards.
Okay.
And the people are already signed up for this event. Like, it's locked and loaded. Is that accurate? Or are you promoting people to sign up?
No. That's accurate. It's locked and loaded typically. However, this year is a little odd with the COVID-19
Right.
stuff, and so because of travel issues and people not being able to come into the States, that thing, there have been some issues. So we actually he's actually still taking on participants as we speak. But typically, like, it filled up last year when we signed up. If you didn't sign up within the first hour, you were on the wait list.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you don't have anything going on in 3 weeks and you can take a couple weeks off, I mean, get your miles
Get your
in,
miles in.
1,000K right there.
There you go.
Yeah, I should be better by then. I mean, I'll be 30 pounds lighter and more fit and ready to do 300 miles in 10 days.
333 miles. That's what, 550K.
So what would you have to do a day? 30.3 miles? 30?
33.
Yeah, if it's a 10-day race.
It's like 33. Yeah, you have 10 days. You have 10 days to complete
33.3 miles.
Yeah, you have 10 days to complete it. Of course, those who are going to win it will finish, somewhere around
3 days.
Well, yes, like Greg Armstrong, who does labs, he finished his 314 miles last year at Vol State. He did that in 3 hours and 3 days and 14 hours, I think. Yeah, 3 hours. 3 days and 14 hours, I think, and that was without a crew. He did that. I think.
Wow.
I think he has a better time with a crew. But anyway, so this race, you just kind of suspect there's racers. There's Beverly Anderson-Abbs. She's a record holder of a lot of ultra races and things.
She's got 2 Barkley Fun runs, so she's finished 3 loops, and I think she's the last female who's ever been able to do that.
Was she the one on your promo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and she also finished somewhere at Badwater, Western States, top
Yeah,
10
she-
at Western States or
Yeah.
something like
yeah.
that.
She's had some top 10 finishes at Western States.
Yeah.
You know,
She's
that,
really
that
accomplished.
Laz is really a equal opportunity sufferer. Like most places, if someone was going to put on a 300+ mile race, it would be limited to 4 or 5 days or, elite athletes. And then for this to be like, yeah, anybody you can have 10 days. If you want to die over the course of 10 days, you can do
If
that.
you want to run a 50K every day, 10 days in a row.
Yeah.
We don't want to
come
leave
out and
anybody
suffer
out.
with us.
Yeah.
But no, I think he's passionate about that, right? Like he wants people to see what they're what they're capable of. Right, so
Oh, yeah.
he gives them the opportunity. It was funny, and another one that we'll mention that was also in the promo for our documentary is Grant Malgan, and or Grant Maughan. I gotta say his name right. He's Australian. Grant Maughan, and he I think he was king of the road
At Labs.
at Labs one year, but he made the point when we said something about how generous Labs was with the times, giving us 10 days. He said he's not with the Barkley. So did he get a fun run? No, he did a loop.
No, he did a
He did a loop at the Barkley marathons.
And then climbed Mount Everest.
Oh yeah.
Right after that,
he did, and then he climbed Mount Everest. He did just Badwater.
Labs, all in the same year.
All in the same year.
Yeah.
And then he did Tour de France that year. Anyway, he's done the what's the one in Alaska?
the Iditarod.
Iditarod 1000.
Oh man, wow. And so this is your project coming out of this race. How did you get involved with doing the shooting and documentary part?
Yeah, so that's the thing, is that what we're talking about is we want to capture these stories of these people doing this race, right? So it's not a story about the race, it's a story about the people and what they go through as they do this race. And because the things that you go through, it's real hard. People are always intrigued when you talk about it, and they have all these questions. Like, man, if we could just show them,
Yeah.
it would be so, I think, interesting, because people are always so interested. But we finished. We were sitting at the end of Vol State last year, and you get to sit there with Laz, and he wants to hear your stories about what you just went through. It took us almost 10 days. Took us 9 days. Of course, the fast people were done a week ago. And we're sitting here having battled it out, ready to quit days at a time in a row, and made it. And you get to sit there and talk to him, and it's like the stuff that you go through, it's like living an entire lifetime in the span of a few days. I mean, literally the emotional roller coaster you go through, the experiences. It's like, I don't know. Have y'all thought about sharing these experiences with more people so they can understand it? And he's like, no. He said, but of all the races I do, this is the one that should be documented. And I was like, well, let's try to do that.
You talk about the time he gives us to finish it. It's really generous, and what that does is it allows a really diverse crowd to participate. As the older you get, often the slower you are, and so you have this generous time frame, and you get folks. We had a fellow out there last year who was 80, who finished. In fact, he beat us. And these are guys and gals who have so much experience and have been ultra running since the beginning of ultra running, and it's just so fascinating to talk to them. And there's really nowhere else that you get to spend this much time with them, and you have them all in the same race. And so you get that aspect, and you get just like regular people like us who do it. And it's so fascinating to see the field of people and the diversity in both age and gender and ability, right? And it's just really neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so hard to capture, though. I mean, you watch these documentaries and you think, wow, that was really good, and that's great, and that's cool. But it's just getting them in the moment is not, as you well know more than anybody. You're talking about having 10 crews.
Yeah. So the way I planned it out, typically if you watch a documentary on an ultra marathon, it will do one of two things. It will follow one person, or you get the shots or the footage from a checkpoint, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the challenge, or what I wanted to do, was different. I think the focus on the people and diving into who these people are running the race, so that you're invested in and you understand who they are. And so as they go through this, you get to experience what they're experiencing in the race. Is different. So that does create a larger challenge. How do you dive deep within this character or this person doing this race, rather than these people coming by this checkpoint who you don't really get to know very well. So you're not very invested in their story and everybody's challenged the same way in these ultras, right? And it's like, but I don't really get it. I mean, I see you're suffering just like that guy's suffering, like that guy's suffering. So the way I planned it out was, we need like 8 crews spread out. I mean, I was trying to keep it tight, and so we need somebody at the end with as the report-ins, check-ins come in from Laz, and Laz is doing he does these race reports every 12 hours, and of course they have conversations and interactions there about the racers, and to capture that would be just priceless. And then to be far enough ahead to capture those who are racing for first place, king of the road, you want to capture those people. And then you have people in the back of the pack that are really suffering, and you really want to capture those moments. And then you have those great stories. Freddie Davis is, I'm not real sure how old he is, but he's over 70. He's over 70. And Diane Taylor. I mean, you have people that have been doing this for so long. It'd just be a great story to tell. So to capture all these people.
The other challenge is, and you kind of touched on this, is lots of these multi-day races are staged or there are checkpoints, and it makes documenting them a little bit easier because you know where the racers are going to be, where they're going to sleep at night. And because this is a continuous race, they're going to, some people choose to run at night all night long when it's cool. Some people will run during the day. And you never know where they're going to sleep. They might sleep in a hotel. They might sleep on a church porch,
under a bridge.
So it's about finding where they are and then catching them in the right moment. So there's that element of timing that becomes really challenging, I think, as we document this.
Yeah. So creating the documentary for it is probably almost as hard as doing a journey race.
I can imagine.
It's one of those things where it's like, that sounds too hard to do, but let's go give it a shot. So I guess it's just sort of in us. And I mean, that's kind of what we did the first, well, at least for me. It was like 300 miles. I don't think I can do that. Let's sign up. How do we document this thing? I don't know if it's possible. Let's go try.
And there's a need for it. I mean, it really is transformational for the people that watch it.
It is, and I've thought about this because people will ask you whether, and you guys experience this, right? You go out there and you do an ultra, or really any race, but you go out there and you put yourself in this uncomfortable scenario for long periods of time, and you inevitably get to this point where you're like, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this.
That's like mile 1 for me.
Yeah. This is dumb. And so, and then you keep doing, and then inevitably you end up telling, like, we'd like to talk about it, or people like to hear about it. And so the question always comes, well, why do you do it? And I don't know if you guys have an answer to that question. I've toiled over it. I've asked other people, and everybody has some sort of version of some answer that doesn't really, I think, hit the mark, nail it, hits the nail on the head or whatever. And I think it's because, and I may be wrong, but I've come to this conclusion that it's something that it's like reserved for those who do it to understand. Mm-hmm. It's like you have to do it. I can't really tell you what you get out of it.
And what inspires you to do it, or what motivates each person, is so different and so personal that what it means to you, is not the same maybe what it means to me.
Right.
And with, there are lots of documentaries about 100-milers. 100-miler is a different kind of suffer than this is, right? And I haven't seen anybody capture this sort of like multi-day unsupported. It's just a different kind of suffer, and it's a different kind of experience that hasn't really been documented yet.
Yeah, because you're fending for yourself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to camp where people are going to maybe take care of your feet.
And nothing wrong with any of that, right?
Yeah.
It's just different.
It's a different genre, right? And that's where I was going before, is when you think about the different types of races, it's a different type of race, but the only ones we know about are the ones that Laz puts on. It's these journey races, and he's crafted them in a way where you get to see parts of America or parts of the deep South that you just drive past and never see. Yeah. So they're very unique, and you think, well, people do 100 miles or people do these multi-stage races, is a big deal. But yeah, when you're out there, it's funny. I didn't listen to hardly any music or anything. You're out there for 10 days. You're like, all you're doing is walking. Can't you just listen to music? I can't even explain to you how you just can't. You can't function normally while you're just doing this thing. And so it's not as easy as just doing 3 100-milers. I mean,
I don't think that would be very easy. That sounds horrible.
Well,
that sounds like the worst.
I don't think that you can compare it to anything.
No.
And I think that that's the beauty of it. If you could explain it to someone, if you could explain it to somebody, you'd be robbing them of the reason to even do it. I heard a guy talking to a group in recovery, and he was talking about going to recovery houses and telling people, if I could give you all the gift of recovery, I wouldn't do it. And that they're like, who's this asshole? He's like, because I wouldn't steal that from you, because that's yours. You know, what you're embarking on. You said, you know, like you said, you live a lifetime. You live a bunch of lifetimes out there. And if you could tell somebody and make them feel exactly what that was, well, what's the point in going through all of it if I can just sit down and have you do it for me?
Well, it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah,
right?
whether you want it to be or not.
So it's like those people that go off and do the ayahuasca and have the medicine man teach them all this stuff. Like, it doesn't matter. Your experience is going to be different than mine, and I cannot explain it to you because your whole personality and all the things that you have going on in your head are way different than mine. Right. And I may realize something that I need to realize in the middle of the night trying to run 100 miles, whereas you might realize some completely different thing that I would have no idea about, you know, and you can't explain that to somebody. You just have to put yourself out there in that position and be open to learning.
And I think what this documentary might enable is not so much to describe how you might feel or what it might do for you, but to show that normal people do this.
Exactly.
It's not outside of your reach. I mean, anybody can do it.
That's exactly what my intention is to show you. Look, we're not super uber athletes doing now. There are some doing it, right? And they'll finish in 4 days, or we'll take 9 or 10 days, to finish the thing, and we'll suffer the whole time, and we'll love it. And there's nothing special about us, so special that somebody else, watching this documentary couldn't go out there and try, because that's what we did. It was like, I hope. Last year I was like, I hope I can get 200 miles. That would be amazing.
As for some perspective, I had done several 50Ks before this race, but that is the longest distance that I had run was a 50K. And Tony,
mine was
22 miles.
22 miles. That was 22 miles. I went from 22 miles to 314.
He got in. He actually was on the wait list, but he went on the wait list really late. And the day before the race, Laz sent out a note and he said, "I've got 6 open spots. If you're local and you can make it, why don't you come?" And Tony was like, "Let me see if I can get some vacation." Yeah. And he went, and he did great.
Yeah. So, the story about how I got there is true. Me doing great. I don't know.
You did great.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the relativity part. You doing great. What is great? What is great is that you got to experience what you experienced, and it was equally as awesome as it was for anybody out there. And part of the culture of trail races or Laz athletes, I was going to say Lazleets, the people that he surrounds himself with, is there is almost a unspoken code of ethics that allows the finishers to get on the same level as the front finishers to get on the same level as the back of the packers, because they're aware that it's all the same game.
It really is. I mean, discomfort is discomfort, and you fighting through it, whether it's 1 mile or 100 miles. If it's that same battle and that fight that I overcome, if I do overcome it, and if I fail, well, then I deal with that too, and then come back another day, or I give up and quit. Whatever it is, we're all experiencing the same things in the same way.
And he does such a very good job of dignifying the folks who are in the back of the pack. Like, there's no, he makes it feel like we're suffering hard and you're working hard, and there's respect in just showing up, and there's respect in finishing and not quitting. And it's kind of a cool thing too.
Well, I remember when we were sitting there, and at the end of labs, you get to sit on, they call it sitting on the throne, and you get to sit there and chat with them. I remember I said something about, getting up and going. I guess we need to go and leave. He's like, oh no, he said, don't go for me. He said, this is why I do this, so that I can sit here and listen to you tell me what you experienced. And so he loves to see people. He sets these goals out there really far, and that's they say the edge of human capabilities, and he wants people to get there. So he loves it, and I we all love it when we do more than what we thought was possible, right? And that feeling, and that it changes everything once you kind of get your head above these clouds that you didn't know there was anything above there, but you get up there and you see the sun shine and everything's great, and it's like, I never want to go back down there again. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to settle for these limits I place upon myself, and I'm going to keep trying. So that's kind of what I want to show people is, yes, this is horrible, and people make it through it, and they're better for it, and you can do it too.
Are you going to film and participate?
Well, I will be running with my iPhone, just getting iPhone.
So you're
footage.
Participating in the race.
I am in the race. I'm not going to be running a camera that we're going to be. I mean, I might end up throwing some footage in the documentary from my phone. I can shoot 4K on my phone, but some of that footage was from last year. I shot on my phone, but no, I need some crews of people to do it. So
Do you have your crews lined up, or are you actively searching for?
So I am actively searching. It's sort of this. Our challenge is multifaceted, right? So with COVID-19, a lot of things were up in the air. With the race being one of those things for a long time, we found out a few days ago that the bus lines would let us go and ride the bus. So that was the first hurdle. And then it came down to how many people were going to still participate and could make it. And like everybody from out of the country, they're out, right? So they can't come. So we still needed a certain number of people.
And I'm not sure that we know if we've met the threshold for participants yet.
As of last night, we needed, I think, 20 more people to confirm they were still going to do the race.
Yeah.
And so I haven't checked. We'll see. I'm sure we'll get the numbers because we had people on the wait list, and there are people from Vol State that could transfer over. So I think the race.
Any of y'all could sign up right now.
Yes,
and make this a reality.
I didn't know if that was the case.
I think if people want to do it, it would be worthwhile to go ahead and sign up.
Might be.
You'll meet you. I don't have any doubt about you meeting the number of participants that would be willing.
I think so. Yeah.
Nuts enough to do that.
Everybody's races have been canceled. You could get all those races you had scheduled. You could just get them all at once in this 10-day
Right.
period.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Just cram them in.
What's this race called again? What?
It's called
Last annual Heart of the South Journey Race. So it's fun to say. It's fun to say this is the first ever last annual Heart of the South Journey Race. Yeah.
And every year, is it going to be the last annual?
Every year it's the last annual. It's the last annual Vol State and the last annual, I guess, Heart of the South. Now this one's going to be different. As I understand it, he's going to change the route every year. But yeah, it was a fun thing. I heard him say. I guess we were in a conversation somewhere, or somebody was in the conversation. I was in his presence when he said, like, why do you, or maybe we even asked him, I think we were in Waffle House with him one day and said, why do you call it last annual? He said, "Well, everybody's got first annual." He said, "Nobody's."
It totally sounds like something he would say.
He said, "Nobody's got a
On
last."
some year when he decides to stop
love
doing
him.
it, he was right.
I think he even said that too. He said, "Eventually, it will be."
One of my favorite lines in the Barkley Race That Eats Its Young documentary is when he's driving with that lady and
truck,
his,
and the-
his gas gauge.
was
And
on
she
E.
said, "You're about to run out of gas." He said, "Oh, E means excellent. F means you're fucked." And he said, "What is yours, backwards?"
That's right.
And then that old man saying, "Lazarus Lakes is a very dangerous man."
Yeah. He's a fun guy. That's for sure.
Speaking of finding participants to do this thing, here's a reason why I say you'll have no problem. Have you looked at the participants for the 1,000K race across Tennessee?
Like 20,000 of them.
20,000 people, Vaughn.
Wow.
$60 a pop.
That's a lot of people.
You know
That's a
what
lot
that-
of money.
$1.2 million is what it comes out to.
Yeah, he's given a lot of that's going to charity.
Yeah, there's a food bank he's supporting, and then he sent out a merchandise link, and it's also the proceeds are going to support charity. I think. Yeah.
Is it 60,000 or 600,000 that have signed up for the race?
It's 20,000.
20,000 have signed up for the race at $60 a pop.
That's 1.2 million.
That's 1.2 million.
Yeah.
You can sign your dog up.
Y'all
too.
over there giggling about my math?
We were. We were kind of having a moment.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, is that 1.2 million?
Yep.
But he obviously figured it out before he said it.
He's super generous. When we do, you guys may have done. Have you guys done the Barkley Fall Classic?
No.
No, hell no.
It's a good time, but most of the proceeds for that race go to support.
Wounded Warrior.
No, I think it's the
Oh, the football.
he supports the football team, and then that's a veterans group there, I think. But,
Okay.
yeah, he does a lot of good work for charity.
So when does the race begin?
June 18th.
June 18th. Now we'll do there's a Last Supper, and there was usually a last Supper. So we're having to skip the last Supper, and we only get the Last Supper this year because of the whole COVID thing again. And so we'll do that the night before.
Yep.
17th. Yeah.
We'll drive down 2 days before. We'll stay the night there. The day before the race, we catch a bus, and we'll ride the bus the route back, and we'll stay in West Memphis at a hotel, and then we start from West Memphis.
Yeah.
How much of this race relies on your ability to navigate?
All of it.
It does.
Well, yeah.
It depends on what you mean by navigation. I mean, in its simplest form, yeah, I mean, you got to go down this when you get to the towns, right? I mean, so you're on a highway for a while, and you get to the town, you got to go by the city halls. Typically, is what you're going by.
There's no little signs though.
That's what I was. There's no kids with streamers or anybody saying go
Will
right,
be,
go right.
And it sounds simple. Like the navigation is simple. There's probably not that many turns over the course of the race, but after 3 or 4 days of sleep
It
deprivation,
does. Yeah, it doesn't sound simple to me at all.
No, it's not. It
Yeah.
Will the route be published at the start of the race? Like for people to come out and jeer and cheer.
That's funny.
Runners?
That's a good point. I don't know that it's posted publicly. I'm sure it might leak out.
He usually does press releases for each of the towns that we run through. At least that's what he does for Labs. But this year he said specifically he was not going to announce it. And I think that is to prevent people from helping
Yeah, this
to
is
make it suck more.
this is a topic of conversation. So the Vol State race, and there's a history to that one too. It'd be fun to talk about, but they've done it so long, and the communities have come to love it so much. They come out in support of the racers.
Set up aid stations.
They
and
set
stuff
up
like that.
do.
they
Yeah.
set up aid stations. Man, last year I had a woman like trying to get me to come into her house. She's like, I moved all my furniture outside, and I got mattresses all in my living room. And I was like, no, thank you, we're good. And then, then the word came down. He's like, you cannot go, and people like he's like, I can't believe we're at this point. we're at this point now where I have to make rules, and you can't go into people's houses. And essentially, what it comes down to is you're supposed to anything that benefits you or helps you along your way. You kind of you have to do it yourself.
Anything that's going to make your life a little bit better is not allowed.
Right. Yeah. In all seriousness, and so the whole thing about this race is you can't have a crew. And, you can crew one another if you're both in the race, but you can't have a crew, and nobody along this route is going to know who these crazy people are walking up their, up their highways. So I
just think it would be fun, like, especially you said race starting in West Memphis. It's like it'd be cool to go out and get on Highway 64 or whatever road you guys are going to run down and.
Mm-hmm.
And stand out there for a couple hours and see 3 people come by, and
Yeah, right. They'd be so spread out.
Well, and the only reason why I'd be interested in doing it is because I'm in Memphis compared to West Memphis, as opposed to being in like Knoxville, like where you might stand out there for 2 days and see one person kind of thing or something.
I think if you want to spectate, the best place to do it would be at the pedestrian bridge. Because we will for sure all come across the pedestrian bridge, and it's at the very start of the race where we're still not super spread out.
Big River Crossing, yeah.
Yeah,
very cool.
So that would be on the 18th.
What time is the race supposed to start?
I think we start at 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great
7 a.m.
question.
or
7
p.m.?
a.m.
Right. Yep.
So what about the sleeping? Can you use a hotel?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can. We found that we could only really stay in a hotel for about 3 or 4 hours because we were so close to the cutoff. So we would get a hotel.
Oh, man.
We would shower, get a 90-minute nap.
Oh God.
Yeah, and then
You wash your clothes. There is not a lot of efficiency when it comes to this thing. I mean, you're going to spend some money if you want to be comfortable. The people who can. That's what I found was interesting for me was. I think the thing that's going to put me out the most is being nasty. I mean, you are nasty, and I think I would quit over being so nasty.
I can imagine.
Before I would quit for the distance, because we had to. I can't tell you how relieving it was to have to grab a hotel room, throw all our clothes in the bathtub, throw a dishwasher pod, and those pods in there, and you just slosh them around, wash them off. I learned some stuff. You can dry your clothes out by rolling them in towels and stepping on them, and then you put them back on. They're fresh and clean, man. I felt like I could go for days after that.
You talked about worrying about the cutoff time. At what point during the race do you start actually monitoring the clock and having to stress about that, or are you stressed from the time you
Day
start
2.
taking steps? Really?
Yeah.
That would be awful.
We got ahead a little bit on the first day, but then after that, it was pretty much every 12 hours you're just chasing.
Oh man.
So in Vol State they have their pacer is called Oprah, and I'll probably get this wrong, but the way I understood it, it was Oprah's marathon time is the
Her pace. Yeah, or something like that.
And so they would refer to it as being behind Oprah, or Oprah's catching up to you, or something like that. And then there is, I forgot what. There's the same person that always comes in last, and I don't know if she does it on purpose. I love her to death, Diane Taylor. She'll come in last, and if you know that if you're in front of Diane Taylor, you're good.
And she's going to help you. If she gets, she's called the shepherd.
There was a point in the race. There was a point in the race when Diane was ahead of us.
Yeah, that's how bad it got.
Last year. And I think that might have been the first time she and I had ever had any kind of fight at all. I was like, we got to go. And,
Give me. I'd like more details about this said argument.
He's probably got it on video somewhere.
We don't fight about anything. Oh, well, that was okay. That was the one thing. Was it? What makes a good story? Everybody loves to see you overcome conflict. I mean, that's just it. That's what we watch. If we want to get to this point in our lives where we can sit and watch TV, and the more we watch, and we're watching people overcome some sort of challenge on, in the story of this, the plot of the story. And so I'm like, this is what people want to see, is us at our worst. she wasn't going to have it.
The best part about this documentary that we're doing is that I will not be the focus of the camera in the way that I was last year. And that's another challenge. To his point, like, people want to see the roughness of it.
Sure.
And the idea of putting cameras in front of these racers when they're at their worst and they feel horrible and they've been up for days and their feet are blistered, and that's a challenge, right? Like, they may,
But I can only imagine that with y'all's fight last year, that some of that dynamic didn't have to do with a camera in your face, but it's him holding a camera in your face. Like, it's that, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, when it's somebody you're more likely to probably lose your crap and not be patient with them, where if some random person with a camera is coming up, you're like, oh, I'm okay, and, I'm hurting a little bit, but I'll be fine, and, you're kind of more pleasant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So,
Or maybe it was when I was saying, okay, can you cry some more?
Give me all you got. You got to give me more energy. In that.
it's not enough emotion.
You're not even sobbing.
The tears aren't big enough.
me a little
I
more
can't see
pain.
them in the camera.
Do I need to punch you?
Let me do that. Let's do that again. Cut. Let's do it again. Take it from the top.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
man.
Oh, that fall was really good. Can you do it again?
I didn't have the camera rolling. One more time.
What kind of pace are you guys doing? How long are you keeping a running pace before it just goes to walking 30, trying to get through 30 miles a day?
Well, run it all last year.
Okay.
Now we're planning some this year, but we'll see. I mean,
We've been training like a mile on, a mile off, a mile
Yeah.
on, a mile off, and that seems to be good.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how many days that's sustainable. Most people.
But I say that because I want people to hear the reality that this is not people keeping a 12-minute mile, 8-minute mile, 15-minute mile pace for.
Well, again, your Grants and Beverly's, they'll do that. Greg Armstrong, they'll do that. We walked. I think we maybe tried to run one time, and I don't know if we even made it a mile.
I think most people in the field will walk, and that's just the reality of it. Your feet and your body, and you're carrying all your stuff. So you're carrying a big pack, and you're in the middle of Tennessee in June or July. You're carrying a lot of water, so it's heavy. And yeah, we walked the whole thing and we finished.
What kind of pack weight are you talking about?
My pack this year is 13 pounds with over 100. It's just over 100 ounces of water. So a lot of that's water weight, but it's 13 pounds.
And then what was y'all schedule with how many hours would y'all walk and at what time, and then when would y'all sleep? How did y'all try to do that?
We tried. So being our first voyage last year, our first journey was a lot of learning, and it took us several days to sort of get things figured out. And it wasn't even that like we knew we had to figure things out. It was that we didn't know that we needed to figure things out. Yeah. So
You don't know what you don't know until you're in the middle of it, right?
Right. And so, like, one of the things is that so your feet start to hurt and they ache, right? And you kind of get over, when you don't get over it, but you sort of just let it in, and you just continue on. So we were all dealing with this foot pain. Well, she was dealing with some pain, and we thought it was the same, but she was she couldn't deal with it, and came to find out she finally put her sandals on after, like, was it day 3?
Yeah.
And it was so much better. So what happened? Your feet swell, and if you've ever had your any part of your body compressed, like against swelling, I mean, it's painful. And it's one thing to have your leg propped up and with the blood not being pounded into your foot, say, if you with a swollen ankle or something. But when you're pounding down that swollen foot in a shoe that's too tight, it's just unbearable. And we finally figured it out.
I was in ultras that were a size too big, and my feet still swelled so big that I had to cut out the tops.
So
of
she
them.
cut her shoes. She cut the sides and tops of her shoe out, just enough to where the shoe would stay together, and that made all the difference in the world. Well, we were trying to get on a night schedule, but she's dealing with this. And then now we're 3 days into it, and to get on a night schedule, you had to give up some time or make up some time. And we'd have already been suffering, and she'd been suffering. And for me to push her to get onto the night schedule ahead of us.
That's when that fight happened.
That's when the fight would happen. And we couldn't slow down because we were up against, our back was against Oprah. So it was a challenge.
Some of that is also dictated by where you think you might sleep and where you might eat. That's really all you're thinking about. You're like, how many miles am I going to go? Where am I going to eat? Or where am I going to eat? Where am I going to sleep? And so some of our distances were dictated. We knew there was going to be a hotel. So we would go till we got to the hotel, or there was going to be a road angel that we knew we could stop. So
yeah, and I'll tell you, if we didn't have, that's what we call them, the road angels. That's the people that have come out in the communities and they're there to support you as a racer. I don't know, if we didn't have them last year, I don't know if we'd have made it.
We probably wouldn't have made it.
To be honest.
Yeah.
And so this year, there are not going to be any. I mean, if they are, they're what we would say the true road angels that just show up not knowing who you are and what you're doing, but they see you're out in this hot day walking. Do you want a bottle of water?
The good news about being in the back is that so many other people will have come through. Everybody will kind of know why we're
The
there.
word's out.
The word's out.
Yeah.
I could use a popsicle.
Yes, and do understand, and this is part of what I want to pull out in the documentary, that these are perspectives here, right? And this is perspective from the back of the pack. It's a different race. It's a different thing that's happening, a different experience, in the way we're going about it is completely different than what these guys who are going to win the thing are experiencing, right? Like we got to know 8 or 9 people really well because we were back there with them, and we were going back and forth and dealing with the challenge, helping them through some challenges they had. They needed food or whatever.
And you guys know this from the races you do, right? You'll interact with people on the trail who are having a really hard time, and just that interaction and the encouragement that either you can give or
Wilson's
you get.
that guy. He's the trail angel that
Are you the trail angel?
comes by and picks people up and convinces them that they can finish.
Yeah.
And gets them going again.
And you make like these connections, and it's just something cool that I think as a trail running and ultra running community that we have, maybe more so than other running events. And you get that for like 10 days in a row with these people.
Wow,
so
yeah.
you build these really close bonds, and we're still friends with lots of these folks, and it's they almost feel like lifelong friendships that you make.
That's amazing. And that's amazing perspective, because really, on a human level, the only other time that you get to experience things like that is in a time of mourning.
Yep.
When people are completely broken, and you can be there to be either the broken or the person to help put the broken person back together. And races like this are what allows for that kind of interaction, just in times of crisis.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing.
All right, Wilson, I did the math. Moving for 20 hours a day, 35 miles a day, it's a 34-minute, 15-second mile.
That's not
you have
enough
to
sleep.
maintain.
No, that's not enough sleep.
Yeah.
He'll never make it.
Well, so
I can't do it.
not to call you out, but the funny thing is didn't you have like a 45-minute mile?
42. 42.
And that was
fully moving. That wasn't during a break time. That was a moving forward. That was a motivated mile.
I would say that's a challenge in itself to move that slow.
I don't know, man. We did.
I got
He might have gone backwards a little
the
bit.
people. The people were like 20 yards behind me. They're like, "You forgot your water bottle," and I turned around. I was like,
Don't need it.
Yeah.
I did there on numerous occasions. I went backwards, like everything. I was on like mile 47, 48, and I just started, didn't really catch right, and it was dun, 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 dun. And then you got to go 3 more steps forward. It's like, son of a bitch, this is never going to end. Speaking of never going to end, that's the way this podcast is going to be. we cut this thing off at an hour. We're over that. Give us where people need to go. What can they do to help you as much as they can?
Yeah. So, I mean, primarily in order to get the equipment, I mean, it just comes down to money, right? To have all the equipment, we need to have equip the crews. We're gonna have to rent all the equipment. You can go to goinghalfwaytohell.com. There's a website there, and it's got the information. It explains there's a GoFundMe link there, and so it's goinghalfwaytohell.com. I guess that's the best way to do that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
If you have any friends who are into film and want a cool summer project,
Yeah.
I was wondering if there wasn't a pool somewhere that you could pluck people out of, whether it be a University of Memphis film and
I was gonna
video
say, yeah.
kind of, people
Go to the
that would-
colleges along the way and see if you can get the film classes to come out and be the crew for like 20 or 30 miles in every direction of their school.
that's a great idea. I'd considered local to Memphis, but I hadn't considered going
Local
along the
along the
path.
way.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Because like I'm assuming you guys are going to go somewhere near Jackson. There's school in Jackson, Nashville, Murfreesboro, Knoxville.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find schools all along the way.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
depending on
That's
what
a
the
great
route
idea.
is.
But again, having the equipment. I mean, I've got
Yeah.
some. I've got some. I just don't have. I don't have 8 setups.
I can imagine at your level, you're probably not wanting people out there with an iPhone 4 trying to. That would be a problem.
Well,
I'm sure that you're a
I tell you what-
huge, a huge
No, I'm not
video
a-
snob.
I'm not a snob. No, I'm not a snob about it.
I don't believe you. You mentioned that you would be able to film because you had a 4K. As
Well-
if there was no other way to film except for
No,
with the
that's not
4K.
what I meant. What I meant
That's what he
was.
meant.
What
Now,
I,
I'm not believing.
I
Do
did
we
a-
cut it off now, or do you want to explain yourself?
I
Go
did a
ahead.
lot of research on this. I mean, they're shooting movies on iPhones. I mean, I'm talking about well-known directors shoot movies on iPhones. No, I'm not opposed to it. It's a matter of matching the shots in post, right? So if we shoot on a whole bunch of different
Yeah.
formats or different cameras and things, it's just a lot harder to match the shots. So no, it's not so much about being snobbish. It has to be 4K. I mean, in fact, 4K is really hard to deal with. I mean, you have to have a real beefy computer. It gets sluggish. I mean, so it's just. But 4K does look so nice, especially with the exterior, outdoor shots. It's just beautiful. But I would not be opposed to it. I looked into it, and I even went so far as to contact Apple and see if they would donate some phones for us, and we would promote how great their phones are and shooting. I mean, it's a good camera, and they're not doing that right now, of course.
They're
but,
busy boarding up their walls so
Yeah.
they don't get looted.
Yeah. So I couldn't secure. It was by the time I bought enough iPhones, I could have had more cameras. I mean,
Yeah.
it's more expensive to get an iPhone now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I looked for used ones, and you can't find enough used ones that are the same.
All this to say, right now, we've had some really generous donors on our GoFundMe page that are helping.
Yeah.
And outside of that, we're essentially self-funding. So whatever help we can get to tell these stories, we would be super appreciative.
Yeah.
Because these are stories worth telling. And you said earlier, there's so much inspiration in this sort of event that it's a story that needs to be told.
Mm-hmm.
Well, feel free to use the Lift Heavy Run Long community to post whatever that you
Okay.
need and
Cool.
spam that thing up.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for coming out.
Yeah. Thanks
for
for having
having
us.
Lift Heavy Run Long, arguably number 185.
in the books.
I
I've
think.
never noticed it.
Well, I try not to move it too much.
Well, but you have to move it every single episode to put it in front of your face because it's not in front of your face when we start.
Yeah.
Right?
I just walk around with
I'm
it
not
in
being
front of my face.
I'm not being an ass. I'm
Whenever you're here, I've got it in front of my face. You've just never noticed.
okay. So the text on the post says we'll be live at 7:10.
I know.